Fine. So today's topic is related to International Standards Organization, that is ISO 9000 model or ISO 9000 series. So basically, the topic we are studying right now is related to the quality standards which are provided to different companies. And what is the organization that is providing the quality standards here? The company is, or the organization we are talking about is the International Standards Organization. That is the full form for ISO. Okay, International Standards Organization. Now, basically, when we say what was the need of these particular organizations, the need was to take the different companies to a pace, to a level where they provide the quality product to the customers and the consumers, right? So what it is, let's see how it goes. International Standards Organization is what? It is a group of consortium of 63 countries. That means it is a group of 63 countries who established this particular plan with the objective of what? With the objective of fostering quality standards in the organizations, in the different type of organizations. ISO declared its 9000 series of standards in 1987. So basically, this is just like a little bit of history about this. It serves as a reference for the contract between independent parties. Now we'll understand it, how it becomes the contract between independent parties when we see how the certification is being done. Next point is the ISO 9000, the ISO 9000 standard determines the guidelines for maintaining a quality system. ISO standard mainly addresses operational methods and organizational methods such as responsibilities, reporting, etc. Now the main point comes here is ISO 9000 defines a set of guidelines for the production process and is not directly, just focus on this point, and is not directly concerned about the product itself. We have seen in our earlier lectures also that when we talk about the quality of the product, then it is not coming by itself. The quality in the product comes with the help of the process, plan, and standards. So if we are using quality process with complete standards, only then the product will be of quality, right? So that is why the ISO 9000 series is defining a set of guidelines concerning the production process, not concerning the product quality. So the focus is the process, because it is considered, if the quality process is taken under consideration for production or development, then the product by itself will become a quality product. Okay, so that is the main point to focus here. Now, there are types of ISO 9000 quality standards, which are mainly ISO 9001, ISO 9002, and ISO 9003. Now, these are different standards. Basically, you must have heard about ISO 9000, but these different standards are declared for different types of industries. Example, when we talk about the software industry, they have a different way of working, right? So the certification that is provided for the software industries is basically the one that is ISO 9001. Okay, basically these particular standards are defined for the companies which are included in the designing and planning, of the product, right? And also the development part. So directly the software industries are being mapped in this particular ISO 9001. When we talk about ISO 9002, Then ISO 9002 are the standards which are defined for the type of industries which are not directly dealing with the designing and development, but they are gathering the raw material or the parts and are into production of it, right? Example, the car, right? The industries which are, designing, they are not designing the car, they are not designing the different parts of those particular car, they are just assembling those particular and selling out. So that is, they are not directly involved with the designing and development of those particular parts or the car, but they are into production by assembling it. So this particular ISO 9000 are defined for those particular industries such as steel, car, automobile, etc., etc. Then comes the ISO 9003. Now, ISO 9003 is the standard which is defined for those particular industries which are into testing part, right? So these companies can be like gas companies or the ones which are having the testing part, not the designing, neither the development, nor the planning, nor the production, right? They are only into the testing part. So these particular standard is for this company. So now you can see on a whole that different standards are provided for different or various types of countries. It is not the same standard is for all types of companies. They are different. So when we talk about the software, which we are talking about is one that is called as the ISO 9001, right? So these are the types of ISO 9000 quality. Here I have just described what I have already told you in the earlier slide. That is, the ISO 9001 is the standard that applies to the organizations engaged in design, development, production, and servicing of goods, right? This is the standard that applies to most of the software development companies or organizations. So that I told you. Next is ISO 9002. This standard applies to those organizations which do not design the products but are only involved in the production. Example, car manufacturing industries. So therefore, because this particular will not be applied for the software development organization. Okay, next, the ISO 9003. This will be the standard that will apply to the organizations that are involved in the installation and testing of the products, such as the case company. So they are just installing the product and testing the products, right? So these are various types of standards to be applied to different type of companies or organizations. Now let's see, there is a process through which we or the company can get the ISO 9000 certification. What is the process? The process is divided into 6 steps. We'll not go very much in detail to this, but just a quick review. In this, application is submitted, pre-assessment is done, document review is done, compliance audit, registration, and then continued inspection. Now let's see what actually the particular steps involve. In the first step, when we say application, if anywhere we apply for a certification, let it be any certification, first of all, we need to apply for that. So this is also the same step in ISO 9000 certification. In this, we have to apply. The organization decides to go for ISO certification and it applies to the registrar for registration. Then the pre-assessment takes place. Now, what is the process of pre-assessment? During this stage, the registrar makes a rough assessment of the organization. Now, registrar is the outside party who is related to the ISO. Okay, he is going to make a rough assessment of the organization. Document review and adequacy of audit. Now, this is the third stage. After this rough assessment, during this stage, the registrar reviews the documents submitted by the organization who have applied and suggest certain improvements. So these improvements are suggested on the quality basis or on the basis of the standards or guidelines defined by the ISO. Then we have the fourth step. In this particular fourth step, what is the point? The point is the compliance audit takes place. The compliance audit means the registrar checks whether the organization has compiled the suggestions made by it during the review or not. That means in the earlier stage, if you see, the document were reviewed and audited by the registrar, and some suggestions were given for the improvement. Now he is going to see in the compliance audit whether those particular suggestions were included and implemented in the organization or not. Now, then comes the registration process. The registrar awards ISO certification after the successful completion of all the phases. Let's say in the compliance audit, if this organization has not included the suggestions, then the registration process is delayed, right, or cancelled. Lastly, continued inspection means what? This is not just one stage. This is a continuous improvement stage in which the registrar monitors the organization time to time and takes and auditing is being done by the organization, ISO organization, in which the quality standards are measured and monitored of the company. So this is how the certification is taken up for the ISO. Now, the question arises, why the software company or why the software industry requires ISO certification? What is the need of this? So the need is, it is helpful, or this certification has become a standards for international bidding. That means if any international consultancy company is going to, have a contract with you regarding anything, then they will be looking for the quality standards through ISO. If you are ISO certified, then that means you meet to certain quality standards and international bidding is possible. So to run in the international market, you need to have this certification. It helps in designing high quality, repeatable software products. So obviously, the software industry is going to develop the software products. So it ensures that the organization is designing a high quality and repeatable software products. It also emphasizes the need for proper documentation. So what it is, in a way, if we are including all the, if we need to apply for, if we are having the certification of ISO, that means we are meeting all the quality standards in our process, in our documentation, in our recruitment process, in each and every process. So that makes a complete optimal process and quality measurements. So it facilitates development of optimal processes and totally quality measurements. So that is why it will be very helpful for the software industries if they go for ISO certification. Now, what are the features? Now I'm talking about the specific ISO 9001 because this is the one standard that is applied for the software industries. So what are the features of the requirements of this particular ISO 9001? They are, first, the document control. That means all the documents concerned with development of software products should be properly managed and controlled. So it is not that you are just going to implement the process and develop the product. You also have to take control of the documentation. All the documentation should be, documents should be properly designed, developed, managed, and controlled. Then we have planning. Planning means obviously you need a proper plan. You cannot abruptly start the designing process or development process of the software. Proper plans should be prepared and also monitored, right? Once you have prepared, you have to monitor. Monitor means you are tracking that particular plan time to time. Third point is review. After effectiveness and correctness, all important documents across all phases should be independently checked and reviewed. So review process is also again important. Then comes testing. The product should be tested against the specification. That means whatever the SRS was defined in the earlier phases, the testing should be done against these particular specifications so that you can know that customer will be satisfied at the end of the day. Next is the organizational aspects. Now, organizational aspects include many things like management, reporting of quality team, then hiring the quality team, providing the team with full motivation, with awareness, with different development programs, right? So all these are what? These are organizational aspects. So these are the points which are the requirements features of ISO 9001. So the industry should work on all these particular parameters, right? Now, what are the advantages of ISO 9000 model? So this is basically, if you define it for ISO 9001 or 2, these are almost the same. The main agendas are the advantages. It creates more efficient and effective operations, because obviously we are all talking about different operations of the organization and the processes. So it makes efficient and effective operations. As a result, the customer will be more satisfied and retention will be done. So if the customer is satisfied, the retention rate of the customer will also be maintained, and you can retain your old customers. If once the customer is not satisfied, he'll move or switch to some other company for the development of its product, right? Enhance marketing. Obviously, you can compete in the market. Increase profit. Obviously, when you retain your customers, the customers are satisfied, you can enhance your marketing. Obviously, in return, the profit of the organization will increase. As already we have seen in 9001, the organizational aspects are also taken into consideration. So it also improves the employee motivation and awareness, because the quality standards also talk about the employee satisfaction, right? So somewhere it is not only about the workplace and the product, it is also about the workforce. What is the workforce? The employees are the workforce. So the quality standards are need to be maintained for the employees also. Reduce waste and increase productivity. Obviously, the productivity will increase when you have effective plan. Then you will design it, properly document it, and produce a better result. Lastly, the international market will be promoted, because we have already seen it is the certification, ISO certification is very helpful in international bidding. So these are the advantages of ISO 9000. So I hope you must have understood this ISO. Thank you very much.